All right, welcome everyone to another episode of the Kasanova Podcast, Hawaii's #1 podcast. I'm your host, Mekel Kasanova, back at you with another one. And in this one, I've got the honor and privilege of being able to interview the one, the only, Mike Debonis, aka the Aegis Neglector. Mike, go ahead and
What's up, you guys? So yeah, thanks for the introduction. First off, thanks very much for having me. I appreciate it. Pretty amazing. The #1 podcast in Hawaii is pretty badass. In my opinion, that's pretty badass, man. So like, I just got the rundown. First of all, that's badass. But yeah, so yeah, Aegis Neglector is my gamer handle. The Coach Butler, actually, Coach Butler was given to me completely like just kind of as a joke. One of the groups of players out of Indiana, No Good Network, actually. One of the guys in that group, I'd been helping them for a while, and he, because I voiced Shibasaki in Street Fighter V, he just started calling me Coach Butler. And I was just like, that's really funny, actually. I really like that. So I kept it, and then I just started hashtagging everything with Coach Butler, and that was like a year ago. So I guess I'm just Aegis Neglector, the Butler coach now. So. Yeah.
Oh man, and I know because this is the second time we're doing this live stream. We had some technical difficulties the first time. It's on my end, folks. I had a Windows
end.
Yeah, the dreaded Windows update. I should have just used my Mac. I had an intuition to use Mac. I don't know why I didn't.
It happens.
But yeah. So I know you were talking on the last time we went live about how you're helping people. Get better in Street Fighter V, how you were the voice of Shibasaki, and just how you love Street Fighter V and just in and of itself. So
I do, you guys. I'm not even like apologetic for it. I love it. I was saying, it's like, dude, come on. They brought back Urien, like my favorite freaking Street Fighter character of all time, and he's wearing a suit. He's wearing a suit. Come on, he fights in a skin tight suit. It's amazing. Yes, I love Street Fighter V, but I also think it's a really fun game too. So,
and what, I wanted to ask, like, what has been your experience, being a content creator and pretty much a social media personality on Twitter, on Twitch? Like, what has been some ups and downs that you've experienced in your Twitter and Twitch journey so far?
Well, to be very honest, like I feel like I'm still pretty new to a lot of this stuff, like it's been really interesting because I've only been at this really for like, I guess maybe like a couple of years. Like I started, like a couple of years ago, like when the game came out, I bought like a PS4 webcam, and I just was like, I think streaming would be cool. Like, I don't know what I want to stream. I just think it'd be cool to stream. And so I just started doing it, and I thought it was a lot of fun. And then people started showing up, and I was like, this is cool. I kind of just I like engaging with people, I really thought it was a lot of fun. Like my friends would pop in from back home in Illinois and stuff. So it was like, oh, hey, there's Mike. We can actually see Mike and talk to him while he plays. And so I was having a lot of fun. And then people just started kind of popping in. And, my streams are always, if you've seen my streams on Twitch, they're always really lighthearted. Like I don't like, excluding certain people or doing anything like that. Like everybody's always welcome on my streams. And I always I enjoy giving advice and feedback, like I said. So I just started really enjoying kind of coaching people. I kind of just like ran with it, and it became the thing that people started knowing me for. And, before too long, people would periodically just hit me up for help. They're like, hey, I heard you'd run some sets with me and give me some advice. That kind of just took off for me. And, nowadays, I'm trying to start streaming more consistently. And I'd like to start doing more, a little bit more YouTube content as well, in terms of just like tutorials and things like that. So, I feel like before, where I was kind of like feeling my way through the dark, like completely blind. Now I feel as though I've found a little bit of focus for my my content creation. But I'd say it's definitely been more ups than downs. The biggest down, I think, is for me has been like I said, just trying to figure out like what makes me different from everybody else streaming stuff or playing Street Fighter 5. So I really kind of had to like figure that out and just doing and actually showing up and being present and participating in things, you know. And so that I think that's like the biggest down is like, am I doing it enough? Do I need to engage more? I need to engage more? And then I'm like, oh, I'm so bad at this. And you know, and I've kind of like leveled back off to where I've just hit a point. And now I'm like, you know, I get to meet awesome people like you, and I get to help the people on the Shimmy Network and stuff. You know, shout out to Shock Beast over there, and yeah, it's just been great. Like I have so much fun. I'm coaching this really, really sick tattoo artist from New York. He's over in like Sweden right now. Just
wow,
yeah, and so. I don't know. I never thought that I'd be doing this kind of stuff with like fighting games one day, you know, like it's cool. I really enjoy it. So yeah, it's way more ups than downs for sure.
Definitely, man. That's amazing. Like it's amazing when you get to what you want to do, like something you're passionate about, and you get to do it and you get to experience and share that with someone else. And you know, the fact you're teaching people, I need to have you coach me because I'm trying to get better. I'm struggling to get out of ultra bronze. Like every time I get to silver, I get knocked down because I'll come up against a Guile or a crazy Laura, and I'm like, oh my God.
we just did a Laura breakdown last night. I streamed for like 4 hours and we just broke down in training mode. Like this is everything Laura has. And then I ran sets with Laura against two of my buddies against their mains. So it was a lot of fun. Yeah. Like, we'll definitely do that, man. Like I have to for sure. So
awesome, man. Awesome. And yeah, man, if you're looking to get into like YouTube streaming and whatnot, I'll definitely help you with that. I've actually got some contacts with Elgato. So like,
oh, cool.
If you're looking to like get a green screen or get like the stream deck or a capture card, I got connections. Oh, I'm talking about the 60S.
Oh, the S. Oh man,
I will
step up.
I will be hitting you with some contacts because people over at Elgato are really nice and
very cool.
If you're a streamer, if you're in the gaming like heavily, they work with you. So I'll get you that contact.
Good looking, man. I appreciate that. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah, man. No problem. You know, it's awesome to know that, you know, you're also a voice actor. You know, you've done the voice of Shibasaki and various characters in Street Fighter 5. You've also been the voice actor for several characters in Dive Kick, man. Like,
oh yeah.
I have to ask, like, what inspired you to get into voice acting?
So I've pretty much been like, you know, I've been a voice actor since I was like a little kid, you know, where I was just I was that weird kid that was walking around at school making kung fu noises and stuff, and you know, making them mad, you know, doing silly voices when I'd watch a cartoon or something. I've always been like, you know, I'm 35, and you'd never like I'm still like I feel like I'm like a 35-year-old boy still. I'm like. I love video games. I love cartoons. I love movies. I love TV. I love that stuff because I feel like for so many adults, like we hit this like age and it's almost like we're just like, okay, we're not allowed to pretend anymore. Like we're not allowed to have like fun anymore, you know?
Right.
Yeah. And so I had actually completely just not even thought about voice acting or anything. Of course, as a little boy, I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to do that. But I never took it seriously. And so like in my mid-20s or so, like I said, I was going to school in Champaign, Illinois, which is where I'm from. And I was actually going to school for network systems administration.
Oh, and what?
Really, really well. Yeah. I was like, finally kind of like, I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. And my buddy, with whom I ended up moving out to LA, I remember it like he hit me up just out of the blue. Like he called me up one day and he was kind of like, hey, man, how would you feel about moving to LA and like doing voiceover? I was like, no, like because, you know, I'm not crazy and I like living comfortably. So. You know, he was like, well, hear me out. And so, you know, like a 2-hour phone call later and, you know, like at the time when I still smoked cigarettes, it was like 2 packs of cigarettes later. And all right, there might be something to this. And so we decided to like, all right, let's give it a shot. And so we started doing some improv there in town. And started subscribing to like Rob Paulson's Talkin' Tune podcast, and like we started checking out D. Bradley Baker's website, and like Tara Platt and Yuri Lowenthal's like voice actor book. We just started, like deep diving, and you guys remember like newgrounds.com, right? Like yeah. We started, we were like, well, hell, let's just start on Newgrounds. And so we just started, we threw together a little demo reel, and we threw it up on Newgrounds. And I remember, like, I was like the voice of like Lego Iron Man for one project, and things like that, And so we just stuck with it. And at the time too, I was doing QA for Volition Studios in Champaign, who does like the Saints Row games and Red Faction, and all that stuff. And my buddy there was the sound engineer, and I was like, hey dude, would you ever be willing to let me come down and just kind of goof around on the mic, just for shits and giggles, just to see if I had the chops for it? And yeah, he was super on board, and he was really, really supportive. And I came down, and we'd do like placeholder audio for public play tests and stuff. And yeah, he would just keep letting me do it. And then eventually, because he saw that I was taking it seriously, he put me in touch with a couple of the voice actors from the game in LA, and we linked up, and then we moved out. And it was actually the same guy, the voice actor, Arif Kinchin from Saints Row, that got me the chance to audition for Street Fighter. So big shout outs to Arif. Yeah. And Larry Gates is my buddy, my buddy at Volition. So those are the guys. Like, trust me, it definitely was not like a solo effort. It was like people believed in me and gave me a chance when they absolutely had no need to do that. So I'm here doing this thing that I love because I've had really, really amazing, cool people in my life. And now I'm just kind of trying to pay it forward, so help others a little too. So
yeah, man, that's amazing, man. Like, I love, when I get to interview voice actors like, yourself and Richard Epcar and others, like it's really amazing when I get to like find out like how you guys got into it, because it's almost like it's a story of, this is not really what I set out to, but man, the door opened, and hey, my whole foot and body, we just went straight through.
We're like, man, we're already doing it. Let's just go.
Right?
That's kind of how it feels too. It's kind of how it feels.
Awesome, man. Like, what, and I have to ask you, like, what advice or guidance like would you give to like the viewers and listeners that are interested in getting into the industry? Like, should they get an agent? Should they, go to like voices.com or something, or what would you recommend?
Sure. Well, the first thing I guess the most important thing for me was, do I even enjoy doing this? Like, if you find yourself like walking around just kind of doing silly voices, and like, you're walking around and you're just like with your friends, or you do, like you're just acting silly, or you don't even have to like make character voices either. If you just enjoy it, if you guys have like a podcast or something together, and you're like, man, I really like this. I like doing, because not all voiceover is going to be like cartoon silly voices and stuff. It's like you voiceover could be something as simple as, doing promotional work, doing commercial work. It's like the new Chevy, the Silverado, like the 2018 Chevy Silverado or something like that. There's all kinds of voiceovers. So I think like if it's interesting to you, grab a mic and grab like some recording software and just play around with it. See how you feel doing it. Get yourself into some like some improv, if there's like some local improv or some theater or something, because doing it professionally, you're definitely going to be in front of people that are going to be, because you're auditioning. So when you have like live auditions and things like that, you're going to need to be able to perform in front of people. And that can be kind of weird, like hearing yourself and kind of like, in the headphones, or like that weird fear of being judged by people. improv and theater and things like that, like performing arts will kind of help you ease your way into that stuff and kind of just get you ready for the process. But I think it just starts with like, you know, do you have fun with this? And if so, go for it. You know, you can always, it's not like you got to go all in on it. You know, you can do this stuff from your home. I mean, hell, we're sitting here doing a podcast from our bedrooms right now, you know,
true.
Rather. So, you know,
true. You know, and I've kind of been thinking, because, you know, I'm thinking about leaving Hawaii, like moving to possibly LA.
Okay.
It seems like that's the hub for everything. I'm wondering, like, is it, when it comes to voice acting, like, do you need to be near the studios, like in LA or Texas, or does it really not matter?
I think it depends. It's really useful to be out here. I'd say it's beneficial because you just simply have more opportunities that way, I think. LA, obviously, you know, like you said, is kind of the big spot for it. But yeah, they're like, you know, Texas, there's a couple spots in Canada. I think like Atlanta's got some, you know, there's like spots kind of all over. If you know, depending on what it is you're looking for, even like Chicago with like, you know, ad agencies and things like that. So, it's nice being where the action is, because if somebody like calls you up or something and they're like, hey, we have an audition over in, you know, North Hollywood tomorrow afternoon. Like, could you be, it's like, oh yeah, I have the afternoon free. I'll just drive over, you know, and it's kind of nice because the alternative would be like, sometimes if they want to patch in or they want to direct you live, you need like ISDN or something like that. So that's expensive. That's like a service that you pay for monthly. And if you're not, if you're just kind of trying to get the hang of this and kind of get your feet into it, that's a lot of commitment. That's a lot of money to invest. It's like going in, getting like a sound booth and everything. And you're like, well, okay, I'm ready to try voiceover. It's kind of nice being able to just kind of step your way into it slowly. So moving out to one of the big areas where you can just be there in person is definitely handy for sure.
You know, and what is it like being in LA? Like, the most I've ever been when it comes to like LA is either through LAX or a couple years ago when I was working for Microsoft. I went there for training. Like, I know it's starkly different from Hawaii, but I'm not sure. Like, some people say, oh, you know, it's super fast paced, but how would you say it is in LA?
Yeah, I would. Well, yeah. So I grew up in, like I said, I grew up in Champaign, Illinois, which is basically it's like it's the home of the U of I, the University of Illinois. But I grew up in like an even smaller town right outside. So I grew up in Fithian, Illinois, which is like 500 people. So going from like that to Champaign to LA, where there's, you know, roughly 4 million people, it's like, you know, a basic like trip to the grocery store can be like 10 minutes just to go a couple blocks, you know?
Yeah.
So it can be very fast paced, but I think like once you kind of get out here, it takes like a couple years to acclimate. But I'm getting to a point now, like I said, so 4 years for me was August. That was like my anniversary. So at this point, this is like going into my 5th year out here, and I've adjusted. I'm definitely like, I'm used to it now. You know, the traffic and stuff. You just know it's going to take a long time to go somewhere, even if you Lyft or something like that, or you Uber or whatever. It's going to take a while. So just, you know, prepare for it. Don't leave the house in like with 10 minutes to get anywhere, because it's going to take 40. So that was a bit of an adjustment. And then, yeah, you're going to run into so many personalities and things like that. And it can be kind of crazy sometimes. It can be a little overwhelming, but it wasn't as big of an adjustment for me too, because when I was younger, I was in the Air Force and I lived in Tokyo for a while. So I got used to the really, you know, like heavy population, like kind of everything was a little bit like tighter quarters, and I kind of got used to it with that. So this wasn't as bad of an adjustment for me as it might be for some. But I think like when you come out here, as long as you have a reason to be out here, something to kind of focus on and like work on. I think it's when you come out here and you're like not really sure what you're doing that you just start like burning through money and it's like I can barely pay rent and I don't know what I'm doing. But if you have a focus for what you're doing out here, it certainly makes the transition easier, and it kind of helps you keep like sane too, Yeah, because it can be a lot.
All right. Yeah, so like what has been your favorite character to voice act for? And when you're selected for a role in a game, or what is the process for you to get into the mind of the character to properly portray them?
Well, I mean, hands down, my favorite is definitely Shibasaki, just because I was just like over the moon, like with excitement when I got cast to be in the game. Cause I've been, like I said, guys, I was a competitive fighting game player long before I was ever a voice actor, and getting to be in a project like this. I mean, Dive Kick was exciting enough. And then I got to be in Street Fighter. And so it's like this, it was just like it was literally like a dream come true to be in a game like that, And I was walking around for like weeks before my recording session. Like I was watching lots of like Game of Thrones and, videos of like British, people with British accents. And I was, going just like watching all kinds of stuff and listening to all kinds. And I was walking around practicing things and putting like hard R stops at the end of all my vowels and stuff like that. And I would go to the extent of like walking around in Target or something like that. And I'd be speaking with a British accent or something like that, just to try and let it like feel natural to just be doing thoughts. So no matter what somebody asked me to say, I didn't have to stop and think about it. I could just say it the way that it felt right. So that was a lot of fun. Like that was a lot of fun to prepare for. And also just because, because I'm nerdy. So like I got to do the silly, like the, oh my goodness, Miss Karin. And like, really like in really fun ways. And he's always so flabbergasted by just her incredible just prowess and her grace. And it was so fun getting to just do that. And, that was definitely a lot of fun. Shibasaki is definitely like my favorite so far. So
awesome, man. Awesome. Like, and also like, how was it like working with Capcom and, with the people that created Dive Kick? Like, what is that process? Like, are they like, how is it interacting with like the voice directors and whatnot?
Sure. Well, funny story with Dive Kick. It was just as smooth as can be, man. So Keats, Adam Hart on Twitter, he is, a lot of people would know, Keats has got like a pretty deep roots in the FGC. He was the organizer for UFGT, the big Chicago tournament for years. He was the combat, I believe, and Adam, if you see this, I apologize if I get the title wrong. He was the combat coordinator, I believe, for Killer Instinct.
New one?
Yeah. And so I was actually friends with Adam from years, like back when I played Third Strike. He was living in Wisconsin around Green Bay at the time. And we hosted a local Third Strike tournament, and him and the Wisconsin guys all crashed at my apartment. And that's how we got to be buddies. And he happened to remember years later that like I did silly voices and stuff. And so he asked me if I wanted to come audition for Dive Kick. And so it was the middle of like it was like a snowstorm. And we all like piled into our buddy's car and we drove up to Chicago in like a blizzard. And it was awesome. We stayed at we stayed at one of the sound engineer's house, and we had a blast. It was a lot of fun, and we just had fun. It was great. We were just laughing and carrying on, and and we would just let things rip, and whatever felt natural, we just kind of tried to capture the lightning in a bottle, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, because I ended up doing I did Kung Pao, Uncle Sensei, and S-Kill. So I'm really excited because I got to say that I got to be a final boss in the game. I'm a final boss. Mission accomplished. And then with Street Fighter, Capcom, it was actually I recorded it, New Generation Pictures, out here, who does a lot of dubbing projects, So if you guys ever see, well, they did like Street Fighter 4. They do like a lot of anime and things like that. So they've got their hands on a lot of really big projects, and it was great. I loved working with them. It was just super smooth. I was in, out. I think I finished like before the full session. Just like really great direction, easy to follow, super, super accommodating. It was a great experience, like all around. And, and I'm sure that they knew that it was exciting for me too. So they were just, they made it like a really, really positive experience. I loved it.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. Like, because I'm always seeing like new generation pictures like that, or they're always posting things on Instagram, like the different voice actors they work with, and I'm like, hey, I interviewed that person. Hey, I know that.
Those like, videos that they do of like the actors doing the voices and talking about Street Fighter 5 and stuff.
Yeah, I
see those too. Yep.
I was like, wait, I said Michael T. Coleman. I'm friends with that guy. Like, it's so crazy.
Actually, the one that popped into my head too.
So what got you into gaming? Like, what is your fondest gaming memory?
Oh man. I think what got me into gaming was, definitely like just the Nintendo. Like, the Nintendo was kind of like, my God, what is this? Like, what is this thing? Like it's like, I don't understand what it is. It's like magic in a box. And like when I was a little kid, it was like, oh my God, like Mega Man 2 was,
oh man,
yeah.
Oh man,
the fall back in the seat. That's exactly how I feel. And the music of video games, like and then it's like you go from like Mega Man 2 to like Mario Brothers 3, and then like Streets of Rage 2, and then it's like Donkey Kong Country, and it's like, what in the hell, man? How are this awesome? And I've just been a fan ever since. And and it's been so cool because I'm 35 now, and it's like we're in this like day and age where indie games are just as relevant. And like, so we've got all these huge, amazing AAA titles and everything, but then we've got these games. Hell, even like Mega Man 11 is from Capcom, but it feels like a really badass little indie game,
Yeah.
It's a big title for Capcom, but it's like, yo, side-scrolling 2D Mega Man, like in 2018. What year is it? It's so cool, and so it's really fun to just get to. I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. I get to enjoy these things on so many levels. I get to be a part of the voice acting for them. I get to help others enjoy them. I get to enjoy them myself. I get to, that's definitely like what keeps me close to the gaming industry, and I even got, like I said, I even got to like work for a game developer for a couple of years, which was so cool. Just getting to be behind the curtain and work on it. It's like my appreciation just deepened so much for the gaming industry. So yeah, it just keeps pulling me back. It always will.
Man, it's just really amazing because I just turned 30 earlier this month, and
happy belated.
Like, and going back to, I think you were saying this earlier, or on the live stream we tried to do, how like it's weird, like when you hit a certain age, people think like you got to just put gaming aside, or you're too old for it, or it's kiddie, and it's like, man, I'm able to play more. Well, maybe not play as much just because of work and whatnot, but sure. I'm able to buy the games as a kid. Like, I would look at a game, and the only time I would get a new game would be either it's on sale, it's my birthday, or Christmas.
Pick. It's like there's like 5 of them,
right?
You better pick one.
It's like now, like as an adult, I'm like, hey, if I'm off work, if I want, I could go and just buy a game. I can just sit and enjoy it. Yeah. But it's like gaming now, like I feel like it's at its best because we've got higher quality. We've got so many different options to choose from.
Yeah.
And so, I feel like when we were younger growing up, gaming was not as part of culture as it is now.
Definitely. Yeah. I totally agree. And like, we certainly did not have like Twitch and like Steam. And I mean, I remember for one of my birthdays when I was like, let me do a quick check here. Let's see here. Nights into Dreams. Okay, that game.
Oh man.
Yeah, that game came out in 95. Oh my God. I shouldn't have looked it up. I shouldn't have even looked it up. But that game came out in 1995 on the Sega Saturn. And I remember getting the 3D controller for the Sega Saturn when it came in the package box and everything.
Yep.
I have it on Steam now. Like, it's so crazy. It's like these games that it's like, really, man? Like, people speed run. By the way, I'm a huge advocate of like speed running. I love SGDQ and AGDQ and like all that kind of stuff. Like, it's so cool. Again, like, yet another way that we get to kind of remain close to these things that we grew up with. And to piggyback on what you're saying, it's like, I don't know. It's like tell like a couple of old men in Central Park that like, go back in time and tell them that like one day you're probably going to outgrow playing chess with your buddies. It's like probably not. I mean, they still enjoy doing it. It's like people that get together and play poker on the weekends. It's like I get together and play Street Fighter. Street Fighter is like my poker.
Yeah.
The other night, like I had two of my local buddies come over and we flipped the kitchen table around. We grabbed beers. We threw on some new jobbies like Spotify, and we just drank beers and like mashed out buttons. And it's great. I love it. And it gives you a reason to kind of keep those fun hangouts going, like I love it. It's great.
Definitely, man. It's amazing how like gaming is bringing people together. It's getting more. Some people I've heard some people say that gaming is losing its creativity. I think the opposite. I think that the better access to technology, the graphical prowess, like the things that they're able to do with soundtracks now. Oh man, my goodness.
Yeah, and there's so many trends coming back too. Like I know a lot of people don't like it. I'm a huge fan of like the retro wave and the synth wave and all that like crazy 80s stuff. And like so many of these cool things that have kind of like from when we were kids. And now it's like, oh, we see you, we got you. And like those developers are like our age. And so they're like, well, I'll tell you what I loved playing. And now they're developing it. So we are developing games for ourselves now. It's like, yeah, what a time to be alive. And it's wonderful.
Yeah, man. And it's like, can you imagine like if Yuzo Koshiro had the stuff that's out now?
Oh God.
Like, oh my I think about that and I just gush. I'm like, Streets of Rage 4 is coming out.
Oh man.
I know he's not working on it, but if he was,
really, he's actually not.
From what I've heard, he's not.
That's okay. That's okay. I have faith
because he's working on there's a game that's what's it called? The Takeover, which is like a fan made. Well, not really a fan made. It's an indie developed game that's basically the best of Streets of Rage 2 and Final Fight, and it's really, really good. But he's doing the OST for that game, or he's doing some tracks. So I'm like, that's cool, but Streets of Rage, I need me some Yuzo Koshiro.
I agree. Yeah, it's not quite the same because he did all three, didn't he?
Yeah.
So not being back for the fourth, man. Yeah, that'll be rough, but that's okay. I'm gonna give it a chance. I'm gonna play it because, good God, it's Streets of Rage 4, and we've been waiting for like literally since the Sega Genesis to play it. Right. So yeah. But I agree, man. If he had like just what he was able to do with the Sega Genesis like sound channels and like I don't understand. Like my little teeny cave dwelling brain is not advanced enough to understand like what in the world I'm pretty sure he was practicing black magic, right? To make that soundtrack work the way that it did. Had to have been magic. It was voodoo for sure. Someone was getting stabbed up with pins.
I mean, who would have thought in 2018 we would have got an announcement for Streets of Rage 4?
Right? Right.
Just it. I remember, like, I woke up one day and my friend Xander Scully, and he's also a YouTuber and podcaster. He's like, Mekel, Streets of Rage 4. I'm like, what? And I'm like, just trying to clear up my eyes. I'm like, right. Like, are you serious? Is this an April Fool's joke? He's like, yeah, it's a September. I'm like, oh,
that's exactly when they would play an April Fool's joke. Classic. Hell yeah! Why wouldn't you think it's an April Fool's joke or some kind of prank? You know,
right?
Some fan mod using Mugen, and it's it's like, oh, all right, fair enough. Not actually, but kind of. So,
oh man. So heading back over to the FGC side of things, man. I have to ask you, what is your take on the current state of fighting games and gaming in general in comparison to previous generations?
Well, it's very different. Like it's really, really different. Like it feels like this is kind of the new golden age. Like it's another golden age. It's like the platinum age, I guess. It's like there's the silver age, I guess, would have been, like back in the 90s when it was like everybody was standing at arcade cabinets and playing, and and then we had like Street Fighter 3 and Marvel 2 and CVS 2 and the all like S Super Turbo and all those games, and and definitely, and like Guilty Gear, of course, all those games. But it's like we had to travel, we had to do a lot of things like that. There were no like online tournaments or anything like that. There was no esports. It was like esports was, Justin Wong was esports. Esports. That, before they were even things, right? So it's like nowadays it's really I like it because it feels like there's such a tremendous variety and there's such a push, because it's like our attention feels pretty fleeting nowadays. Before we didn't care, man. Information travels so fast now.
Yeah.
I could probably click over to Twitter and I could like dig through and find like 3 new Urian setups like tonight,
Right?
And yeah, and before it was more like, nah, man, you go to like, you want to find that hidden tech, you better go to like Final Round, and you better like you better like kind of hang out over the shoulders of like, the top Japanese players and stuff. And if you want to learn, you go there. And
right?
Yeah, and like nowadays it's there's so much more that can be done with like online gaming. Like they have like online tournament, which is not to say that it's ideal. I of course, like I think being kind of grassroots myself, not as much as some, but like definitely from back in like the Third Strike days, going to a tournament and like meeting up and playing on like a CRT TV and stuff. It's like I remember like you used to have to like have your arcade sticks. You wanted like a nice arcade stick, you like hit up a stick maker, right?
Yep.
Like it's like you find the guy and it's just like, I know the name of a famous stick maker. He's going to make sticks, so you'll have to fight him for it. It's like, and he'll test. No, but it's like you have to have a custom stick made, and now it's like you can walk into GameStop and just like buy a TE2, right? And it's just so different. And we've been on ESPN, for God's sake, like fighting games have been on ESPN, and we've got like WWE superstars that are showing up to events. We've had like Lupe Fiasco. Jamie Lee Curtis was cosplaying as Vega at EVO. It's just different than it used to be. Like it's like cool to be game nerdy now, like cooler than it used to be. It's more welcoming. I will definitely say that. I think it's become much more welcoming. It's kind of like crawled out of like its mom's basement, and now it's just like, yeah, everybody's allowed. I'm very, very happy to see that there's a much warmer reception of like competitive female gamers, LBGT, just in general, and of course you're still gonna have the kind of the toxic minded people, but it's nice to see that there's more of a voice for the people that were kind of excluded in yesteryear's games,
Mhm.
right? It's nice to see that so many more people are just being openly included, which is great because it's just going to help the scene too. It kind of helps. It pours more lifeblood into it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we want fighting games around, it's like we need people and not just guys, you know, not just like 30-year-old men playing video games. We need 20-year-old women, and you know, we need 25-year-old men, and we need everybody playing. So it's nice to see that it's expanded the way that it has. I agree. I think so.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And you know, I gotta ask also, what fighting game system do you prefer or find the most fun and fluid? Like in the sense of a 2D fighter style of like Street Fighter. Obviously, I know you're gonna be biased towards Street Fighter 5.
A little bit.
You know, just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Like just like over all the years, or kind of
like if you were to compare like all the Street Fighters, if you were to compare like their fighting systems to something like say King of Fighters, I think definitely like King of Fighters 13 mean the most.
You just said the one, man. You just said the one. Okay, so King of Fighters 13 is got like a very special place in my heart. I had so much fun with King of Fighters 13. I'd never played a King of Fighters game competitively because the US didn't really, like, certainly not like generally throughout the US. The King of Fighters was never like a really huge competitive game in the US. So when 13 came out, well, I guess I should say like when 12 came out, everybody was like, whoa, look at these graphics and what is this? And oh my God, this is so crazy looking compared to how it used to. And I was always an avid collector of like my PS2 collection. One of these days I'll have to like post it up on Twitter. I had a shelf that was just huge. And when I went to Japan, I just went to the game stores and bought every 2D fighting game that I could. And my shelf, I probably had like 40 to 50 legit 2D fighting games like on my shelf, Japanese and American. And I had all of the King of Fighters games. And so when I finally got like a really legit release of like King of Fighters 12 and then 13, I was like, I want to play these games. I've never actually played and put time into a King of Fighters. And then 13 kind of started taking off. And I was like, man, this is a really cool game. And so I took it really seriously. It was like the main game that I played while my friends were all playing, you know, still playing like Street Fighter 4 and Marvel vs. Capcom 3. And I was focusing on King of Fighters 13. And as a result, I ended up getting really, really tight with like the King of Fighters crew. I ended up meeting Romance and I think like one time I did like a DreamHack podcast with Reynold, like right after he'd won Evo and things like that. And when I moved out to LA, I had already been in touch with the Team Chaos guys. So I was like meeting up with them at like Real Kim's house, TC Real Kim. And yeah, I had a blast with that game. It was great. So I think that King of Fighters 13, if I had to just pick a game that really, really was just always so fun to play, it was that one. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that it was so new to me. I'd never really been a part of a King of Fighters community before. And it was awesome. It really changed my perspective because I'm like, well, here's a game that I've never been a part of. And I'm not about to like go in there and start popping off like some know-it-all, you know, like that, like so many of those like top players were just so humble and like willing to help. And you could tell that they were like, well, we don't have a huge scene like other games. We need like all the people we can get. So they were very open about like helping new players. And yeah, so I really, really loved playing King of Fighters 13 and 14. I don't play it as much, but it's really fun. Like I own it. I kind of tinker with it. And I try to watch it sometimes, but it's really fun. I think King of Fighters is actually just like one of my favorite fighting game franchises ever. It's it's so different from Street Fighter, you know?
It's one of the things like I hear a lot of people say that, you know, you can easily go between King of Fighters and Street Fighter. I'm like, no, you can't. They're fundamentally significantly different.
Very different, yeah.
You know, like I feel like the only two titles within SNK and Capcom that have been comparable would probably be Mark of the Wolves and Third Strike.
Yeah.
But anything beyond that, King of Fighters has been so different.
Sure.
So different.
Yeah.
And I remember when I had friends that would play like Street Fighter 4. I think at the time when 13 came out, I think that's what's that, 2012, 2013. So some of my friends were playing Street Fighter 4 Arcade Edition, and then they were trying to come over and play like King of Fighters 13, and they were saying, man, this game's too hard. It's super technical. And I'm like, yeah, it is.
Yeah. I heard that one like crazy. It's like, man, I love that game, but it's just too hard. It's like, it's really not that hard. It's like, it's just different, you know. Yeah. It's like playing, I think it kind of feels, it's the same as like playing Marvel versus Capcom 3 and then being like Guilty Gear's too hard. It's like, it's just different. Yeah. It's like, or vice versa, like going from Guilty Gear to Marvel and being like, Marvel's just weird. It doesn't feel right, you know. It's just different, you know. So once if you sit down and put the time into it, though, you'll acclimate to it. So it took me a little time. I'd never really been into King of Fighters, like I said, and it ended up being the game I was the best at. So it definitely just depends on, like, I think your drive to like play the game. So having a good community, having like a group of players that like kind of all want to think tank the thing, that helps a lot too. Like I definitely had some good players to have to train with, and it helped the transition big time.
Definitely. Hey man, if you're ever out here in Hawaii, I'd love to introduce you to the FGC scene we have out here. Shout out to VGH 808 or Video Gamers Hawaii, headed by my good friend Keith Lemos. Man, every week we're having tournaments.
Yeah,
it's super fun, man.
I'll definitely love to come to Hawaii and play party games with you guys. If I decide to take a trip out there, which I would love to, you'll be one of the first people I tell. So I'll keep you posted.
Definitely, man. Come through.
Quick plane ride. You're just out to sea.
It's only about a 4 or 5 hour trip. Not too far. But giving your FGC head like myself, when it comes to 2D fighters and 3D fighters, which ones are your top games? Like if you had to pick your top 4 or 5 games within both 2D and 3D, or combined, like what games would you pick?
Top 5. Okay, so I guess I should say like 3D fighting games have never really been my thing. In fact, I was definitely like very anti 3D fighting games for many years until like the past couple years, because I was just a little asshole. And you know, like I was me not know so many things, so you know, like I just kind of slammed them and I was like, oh, they're stupid, I don't like it, they're just dumb, and I don't like it, I don't like the way 3D fighters look and play. So fast forward, and like, you know, then Tekken 7 came out and I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this game a shot, and it go figure, it turns out that I actually like really enjoyed it. I had somebody that taught me how to play it. Shout outs to Parlay on Twitter for showing me the ropes. My buddy Julian, that's actually who I moved out to LA with. But in terms of the games that I'm definitely more familiar with, I would say like from my top 5, I mean, Third Strike is just, you know, like gotta, because that's my roots. Third Strike, King of Fighters 13, and I don't know if I'd put them in this order, but this is definitely like my top 5. So Third Strike, King of Fighters 13, Street Fighter 5, Tatsunoko versus Capcom Ultimate All Stars, Command Blade. Yeah, oh my god. There's one thing that I'm like infamous for, and I was when that game was being, for like the 1 year that game was really competitive, me and Keats, coincidentally, we were labbing Ryu and Command Blade together, and I actually came up with Touch of Death combos for the whole, for most of the cast with Command Blade. So that was kind of like my little like claim to no fame, I guess. I went out and win like one Evo or anything with them, but I was like, I was sharing like YouTube videos and stuff with it. What do I have? Like one more. So the off of that, I guess I would probably say like Guilty Gear Accent Core. mainly because that was like the other really big game. It was like Slash into Accent Core was like right around the time that I was really competitive with Third Strike. And my scene back in Illinois, we had Third Strike players, and then we had like a bunch of Guilty Gear players, and we had some of the best Guilty Gear players in the Midwest, actually, which is kind of crazy. And they were really big into Accent Core and Slash, and so they were kind of teaching me on those games, and I was like, yeah, this is cool, man. It felt like it was the last time that they were like, you know, they had like the classic Guilty Gear cast, like Testament was still in it, and Anji Moto was still in Mito and Anji Mito, the guy with the fans. So that was definitely like a really cool experience for me. It's like getting to at least dip my toes in some Guilty Gear. But yeah, I'd say I think those are probably like my top 5 if I had to put 5 on the spot like that. Yeah, definitely. I could be okay with dying with those 5. my Desert Island 5, sure.
Hey, we got Quantum L in the chat. He wanted to ask Mike and Mekel, what do you think of Capcom versus SNK 2 for the GameCube and Kasanova versus Capcom on the Wii?
Oh man. Yeah, dude, CVS2 is the truth, man.
It is. It's crazy. Come back. They need to port that to current gen console,
dude, or just make a new one, guys. Come on, make a CVS3 for the love of God. Make a CVS3. Bring the worlds together again. You could be the greater good that we don't deserve. Like, unite the people. Dude, CVS2 is. Okay. So here we go. Like, if there were a fighting game that I like, if I could go back in time with my knowledge of like an understanding of competitive fighting games, I would play the brakes off of CVS2. And I know that Tupperware is like my one of my best homies in the world. He would love to hear me say that too. That's like one of his favorite games. But CVS2 is just like calamity, dude. I love it. It's crazy. It's not the same kind of calamity as like Marvel versus Capcom 2. But it's like, dude, look at the cast. That's crazy. Right? Like roll canceling and doing all the, you know, like there's like 6 grooves. It's insane. And it was just like a really cool, ambitious project. And like, yeah, they reused assets and stuff, but it's like, but the game itself was such a cool idea. I would have loved to be a part of that game in its prime. So,
yeah. And it's like, when you look at like what Capcom did, they went all out. Like, just, I put that up there with Third Strike and just quality Capcom. And if they did a 3, which I think we might get a 3 with how SNK is on the rise.
Right.
They're doing so many collaborations like with Eureka and now with Namco. I think we got the foundations of a 3. I think we do.
I think there's no I don't think there's ever been like better chances of it happening. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. That would legitimately, I mean, that'd be like one of those games where it'd be like all hands on deck for me. I'd be like, man, I love playing Street Fighter 5, but yo, if CVS 3 came out, I mean, because it would be what everybody plays, you know. Yeah. On like the strength of the fact that it exists alone, everybody would play it. You know, like everybody played Marvel 3 when it came out because it's like, holy shit, there's a Marvel 3. This is ridiculous. So on that alone, I would play CVS 3. So, and I would also love to go back and play Vampire Savior. That would be another one, man. I wish that I could have been a part of a Vampire Savior scene. And like, I'm talking like when I went to Japan, there's like a scene for every game at every arcade. And watching cats play like Vampire Savior, like huddled around arcade, like head-to-head cabs, I was like, this is ridiculous. Well, I want to live in this world, like, but alas, I live in Central Illinois where, you know, I'm lucky to have like 5 people to play the current Street Fighter game with.
Man, it's amazing. Like, I'm glad you brought up Dark Savior because I don't understand what happened with that series. It was super good, or why did it not catch on?
Yeah, I think I can't help but wonder if like some of that might have just been the fact that it was like a little maybe it was just like a little off the radar for American audiences because excuse me. When you think about it, like the ports that came out for that game were on like the PlayStation 1 and like the Sega Saturn. Those were like the games. Well, the Sega Saturn never really did quite as well as the PlayStation, which is ironic because that's the one that had the best ports of all the 2D fighting games.
Yeah.
So it's like for those of us that were really into, it's like for those of us that played like X-Men versus Street Fighter on the PlayStation, it's like, what? I can't even tag my partner in unless I pick the same characters as the opponent. It's like, oh man, because of like the RAM limitations and all that stuff. So I think it was maybe one of those cases where it was just kind of the bad fortune of there weren't really good ports of the game, and it just wasn't really the demand for the arcades.
Mm-hmm.
There were for like bigger titles like Street Fighter or like the Versus series. It's like, well, American audiences definitely know who, Cyclops and Magneto are. So it's like if you happen to stumble into like a Vampire Savior cabinet in your arcade, it was like a big deal, right? So I it's speculation, of course. I would have loved to be a fly on the wall at Capcom back in the 90s and find out, same like what you're asking. Like, I wonder myself, like, why? And then, speaking of like Keats and Killer Instinct and Iron Galaxy, it's like then they ended up releasing the remaster of it. There was like a port they did where they basically like just cleaned things up and they kind of added like the new training mode features and all that. But it's like it never really seemed to lead to anything. It's like it was fun to play and people were like, oh, that's neat. And then it just kind of never became anything. So that's another game that I would love to see them revisit. That's such a huge IP for Capcom. Like, I would love to see like something new from that. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, definitely, man. All right, and so I got to ask you, do you feel that the current crop of tag fighters and anime fighters, since the barrier of entry for them is so low, do you think that's ultimately going to negatively impact the genre, or is it going to just draw more people in and tease them at wanting to play something a bit more, more deep, more technical?
Sure. I think it's kind of in the eye of the beholder, really, because there's a lot of people that would definitely say that, like, yeah, they are a little, they're easier to get into. Because if you go back, speaking of the Versus games and like Darkstalkers and stuff, where they were starting to introduce things, and even like to an extent, like Guilty Gear and stuff too, where there's like what people call like magic series, which is when you can do like punch and like getting progressively stronger across the buttons, like people call that magic series. Well, he's in these fighting games where you can just kind of do like really easy, just like, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 air combos and stuff like that. It's really accessible for players that just want to get in and like do cool combos with like their favorite character. But then the really good players will find ways to make that stuff just completely irrelevant in like high level gameplay, to where it's more dependent on like high-low guessing, and you really have to be paying attention to like the synergy that a team may have. And it's like, well, my character is really big and slow, but then I supplement it with this crazy assist character over here. And now this big, crazy full screen character that's easy to just kind of pin down. Now he or she can just do what they want under the safe coverage of this other character. And I think therein lies sort of the charm of those games, where it really depends on how creative you can be. Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was probably one of the first games that really, truly opened my eyes to that idea, where I was never as big into it as some of my friends were, but being around them constantly and getting to play with them in any capacity, it really showed me like, man, I really just don't know as like nearly as much about these games as I thought I did, you know. I tried to play I played Blaze Blue Continuum Shift, the like way back in the day. I played the second version of it, so not Calamity Trigger but Continuum Shift. One where Ragna had like the Belial Edge loops, and it was really cool. It felt so cool. I thought I was just so good. But I think it's good. I think it's nice that there's games like that, especially when you've got games like, you know, like Tekken 7 has like a tough barrier of entry. It sounds like Soul Calibur 6, you know, like we've got like Namco holding it down and staying really true to their origins. And it's a little more accessible, but not to the point where it's like, oh yeah, pick it up and in a month you'll be hanging with Knee or, you know, JCDR or players like or you know, Anakin or any of these like crazy top players. Same goes for like Guilty Gear, you know, like the people like Ogawa and players like that are still they still dominate people that came on board like in the past few years. So it's despite maybe like the easier barrier of entry, it's nice to see that there's still enough depth to it that the old heads still do really, really well. Like you still have a lot of work to do if you want to catch up to guys, you know, like the best players of that game, right? And like, you know, guys and girls basically, because there's some insanely good just talents throughout like all the games, right? So yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good because it just feels easier. I think what I would like to see across more games is just better efforts from the developers to explain their game to players, right? Like we have a lot of resources on social media and stuff, but you know, then you've got games like Skullgirls or, you know, Killer Instinct, where I mean, you barely had to leave their game to learn the game. And I'm talking like high level stuff. You could stay in the game and just learn. And for a lot of other games, it's like, you got to go dig around and you got to go down to like the Dust Loop forums and stuff. And hey, you know, it's like, you got to go figure out how to play these games. And back in the day, that was like the charm, you know, it's like, that's why it's so cool, because it's like, oh, you got this hidden tech that nobody knows about and you're going to be winning tournaments until people figure it out. But nowadays we're a lot less, we're a little less patient with that kind of stuff. And it's like, no, I just want to like learn the game. I don't want to like spend 3 years learning the basics. I want to like know the basics, move on. So I think it's good. I still think it's okay. Like, I think that there's, like I said, there's enough there that people chew on these games for quite a while. And they still don't discover, I mean, people still discover things about Street Fighter 5 and everybody talks about how shallow and stupid it is. And I'm like, there's a lot more to it than people give it credit, you know, and that definitely rings true for a lot of the anime games and stuff too. So,
yeah. So speaking of Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition, in your opinion, is it an improvement or still not what it should be? As it seems, it's just popular for so many to just hate the game.
Yeah.
No matter what Capcom does.
Yeah, right. They're like, nope, garbage, trash. I like it. I mean, I've liked it since day one, but I understand. I hear and I understand the complaints. I certainly do. Arcade Edition, I think it fixed a lot of things. And I mean, it's hard to say, I think, because it's so subjective, you know. It really depends on the player. Like, I can sit here and just praise the game like crazy, while somebody else could walk up and be like, you're an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about. This game is trash. And I'll objectively explain why it's garbage and why you're stupid in the process, you know? And so it's like, well, all right. I mean, I don't know what to say now, because I think it's good and you don't. So I guess, am I wrong or are you wrong? Or I don't know. So for me, it's like, I really like it. I really, really like it. I appreciate what the game is. I think that the things that they kind of added, I think the new V triggers and stuff, I like the changes that they made to characters. I still think there's always going to be room for improvement, you know, like you can always kind of keep tweaking things, but it's Street Fighter. It probably will to the very, I mean, hell, Street Fighter 4 was getting patched and updated all the way through Ultra, right? I mean, at the end of Street Fighter 4, they added a whole new kind of wake up option. They added red focus. They added all of the characters from SFXT and then patched it again after adding all that stuff to give it another balance update. And people are still playing it at, you know, I'm seeing on Twitter, like the updates from Canada Cup, you know, people are still playing the game. So I think it's right where it needs to be, honestly. I mean, for the people that love the game, for the people that want to play it, I think it's fine where it is.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they keep doing with it. But I'm in no rush. It's not like I'm sitting here logging in every day just thinking like, oh my God, this game is such a piece of shit. I'll keep playing it so that I don't just get out of practice for when it's correct. But I'm enjoying it, you know, like
so many that do that. And
they're just like, oh God, this game is so dumb. It's like, you're the one that chooses to play it. Why do you play it? You bitch about this game, but then you're like, oh my God, I should just quit and play Tekken. That's such a good game. I'm like, go play Tekken. Go play Tekken then. Stop talking about this other game. You want to know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like y'all motherfuckers are afraid. Oh, it's easy to just sit and talk shit about the It's easy to sit and talk shit about this game instead of just like buckling down and trying to get good at it. But here's the meta game. Guilty Gear and Tekken are too hard for you, which is why you don't move on to them.
Yeah.
So you just would rather sit and play the easy game and then talk about how dumb and shallow it is. I'm just saying, it sounds a little suspect to me. That's all. No names. No names. I'm just saying. I mean, the logic doesn't seem to be there. It's like smashing your hand with a hammer and then being like, oh my God, I hate doing this. It's like, well, then put the hammer down, dummy. Like, why are you doing it? Nobody put the hammer in your hand. You did it with your good hand and destroyed your other hand. And you're like whining about it. Like, I don't understand. So I like Street Fighter V. I think Arcade Edition, I think it's good. I think it's fun. I think it's right where it needs to be. And I look forward to seeing what comes with the rest of the game. So
that is a first for the show. My guess has ever just called people on their bullshit.
I'm sick of it, man. I'm so fucking sick of it. It's like, stop playing the game, you jamoke. God,
dude, I hear it all the time.
Play it.
Like, I hear it all the time, like, as well. Like, people are like, oh, this game's so stupid. We should just go back and play 4. And I'm like, why don't you?
Go ahead.
Yeah. And then like, you can play Street Fighter 5. Why are you playing it then?
Right.
You know, it's the hypocrisy. And I think we said this earlier, or maybe on the last time we tried to stream. The fact is, every Street Fighter that has come out from 3 till now has gotten that treatment.
Yeah.
So, like, they hated 3 because it was so different from Alpha, so different from 2.
Totally.
4 when it came out, they crapped all over it all throughout. They hate 5 now, and it's like, you're never satisfied.
Oh, man, you can't please nobody, man.
Right?
It's like you could be the gladiator, the one final gladiator standing in the Colosseum, and you're just like, you know, like I've defeated all of these, and it's like, was that a good performance? And they're not happy unless you're getting devoured by a lion. It's like, damn, dude. And even then, they're just like, not enough blood. We want more. Ugh.
Right?
Never satisfied. Can't have nothing nice, man. Y'all motherfuckers are why we've got that term. Can't have nothing nice.
Right? Man. Every character that has come out, they've crapped on.
You know, boring, like, uninspired. It's like, oh, man. Okay. I see.
And like, what is your take on like this whole tier list thing? Because I feel like some people swear by it, and I think it is okay to understand like the different matchups when it comes to characters, but at the same time, a tier list doesn't mean anything if a person is really good with the character.
In a lot of ways, yeah. I mean, tier lists are always like they're like a hotbed of discussion and debate and, you know, toxicity. Like, I think my take on tier lists is this. It's like, there's no denying that's like in any given fighting game, you're going to have characters that are just simply stronger inherently for certain reasons. And excuse me, a lot of times, like, okay, in Street Fighter 5, Cammy, it's like Cammy, Guile, Akuma are considered to be very strong characters.
Mm-hmm.
They are strong characters, but then Bison just won Evo. Why? What does that mean? It's like, well, that's because it's Problem X. It's like, y'all say that shit too. Well, it's infiltration. It's like, that's why he can do it. It's like, you could be that if you would stop bitching so much. But it's easier to just complain. And for a lot of players, it's like, bro, you don't even understand what a tier list means. You don't know how to apply that. That tier lists apply to like the people who are winning things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like when you can't even like anti-air correctly, it's like you have no business talking about a tier list. You can barely get a dragon punch to come out when you want it to. So don't talk to me about tier lists, all right? You'd still be dropping dragon punches. So don't tell me that. But jokes aside, tier lists are definitely there. But I think like I would much rather hear a tier list from somebody who's got like a more objective opinion. Like if Tokido came out with like a tier list, I'd be a lot more inclined to consider that tier list, you know, or somebody who's like won tons of things, you know, if he came out and he was just like, yeah, in my absurdly extensive experience playing the best players in the world, here's kind of how I think these players fall, or these characters fall into the list. So yeah, I think, yeah, it's like a lot of things like that you got to kind of take with a grain of salt. Because, yeah, exactly. It's like just because everybody thinks that a character is top tier doesn't mean they're going to like win everything automatically. Case in point, like Problem X won Evo. He beat one of the best players in the world. He beat Tokido, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like Tokido who plays Akuma. Well, that doesn't make sense. If he's top tier, why should he have lost to Bison? Bison's not even that good. It's like, well, no, it's just y'all slept on him and nobody wanted to actually work on him except your boy Problem X, who never stopped working on him. He's probably been playing him since like day one, and then he won Evo. So it's kind of just one of those things where I think a lot of times people just don't want to. It's funny because we get information so quickly. We get it so quickly that we kind of get spoiled. We pass over. We don't take the time to deep dive on things anymore. And we just kind of like, oh, yo, I saw this crazy setup on Twitter. And it's like, that's just your gameplay now. You just do setups. And it's like, you don't know how to actually use the meat and potato in there. And so you kind of just are like, oh, this character's crap. See, even so-and-so says so. It's like, I don't know about all that, but that's okay.
I hear that too. Like I remember when the whole reveal for Cody, like the initial one back in January when they were showing like Cody being the new character in that trailer, people lost their mind. And I forgot which was it. It wasn't Capcom Cup. No, it wasn't Capcom Cup.
For Cody,
the Cody reveal, like people, they were all hyped and they saw how he played and they're like, oh, he's gonna be fun. And then day one, oh, Cody's trash. He's a worst character. I'm like, are you serious?
Oh dear God. I can't handle it, man. I can't. And it's like it's the most like crazy meme culture shit I've ever heard in my life. Like it's a hot take to even say hot takes. Like we sensationalize everything. Like not even just fighting games. Like we live in a very sensational time right now.
Yeah.
And fighting games just happen to be like subject to that same kind of scrutiny, or I guess rather lack thereof. Where like people are just so convinced, like everybody's a goddamn expert all of a sudden, right? Like everybody's just like, oh man, dude, I like played that character all last week. They're not that good. It's like, oh my God. Like it's a little disappointing sometimes. And that's, I think, part of the reason why it's like, that's why the game sometimes gets even the opinions that it does. Now, there's a lot of good players that feel that it's lacking as well. So it's very subjective, but there's a lot of players where I'm like, you don't really know. And again, no names. I was playing with some players tonight, and I'm trying to convince this player. He was playing Ryu, and I was just like, yo, man, you got to use more like medium punch, dragon punch, because it's invincible by design. It's meant to blow through jump-ins and stuff. And he's like, no, I don't really, I don't think it's as good as this button over here. And I'm like, oh, okay. If you say so, I respect that, but I'm telling you objectively, it's like, you know, and so there's a lot of that where people are like, no, I don't like the way that sounds. And it's like, all right, well, I don't know what to tell you then, you know, like there's an answer to this problem you're having, but you're too stubborn to kind of hear it, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's tough, but like, you just kind of got to like play what you enjoy, you know, and like enjoy playing it, play what you enjoy.
Yeah. You know, cause I was playing the other night and I play Cody. He has been the one character that's just brought me back fully into Street Fighter 5, because before I was
a lot of players.
Yeah, you know, because I started off as a Ryu player back in the beta.
Oh yeah,
and I was all about Ryu. Then I switched over to Ken. I didn't like Ken initially because he changed so much, but then I adapted to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I play like if you play my Ken, I play vastly different than anyone else because I don't spam dragon punches. I don't spam Hadokens. I have a very mean footsie game.
Just basically, you play him with some intelligence. Is what you're
it's so like when Cody came out, I'm like, I'm all about him. And then I'm just seeing people complain about, oh, he doesn't play like 4. He's so weird. I'm like, this Cody is Cody from Alpha and 4 and Cody from Final Fight. And I feel like a lot of people they never played Final Fight, so they don't understand a lot of his movesets.
Yeah.
Are straight from that game. Like light punch combo. That's his combo from
little jab combos. Yeah. That's
so
the Easter eggs. Yep.
Yeah. So like I played this. What were they? They were playing Guile, and they were, I think, a Ultra Gold, and they were talking about how great they are. And I came and played them, and I just decimated them. Game after game after game, and they're like, "What? Well, you know, it's just because of the latency and the input lag." And I'm like, "You lost. Just here's an L. Take it.
You
hold it
here and hit my Fago."
Right?
Yeah, man. It's kind of tough because it's not fair. I hate this. I'm not going to generalize and say it's like everybody, because it's, you know, to kind of go back to what I'd said before. It's like, I mean, I live in Los Angeles. There's like 4 million people. So it's like when you're coming from like a small town or something and you're looking at LA, you're just kind of like, oh, people in LA are just so douchey and like up their own ass, and oh my god, it's so gross and stupid in LA. And it's like, bro, you don't know. I mean, you had never even like been anywhere near LA. You don't know anything about it. Like you've never taken the time to actually see what it's about, but you're talking as though you're an expert on it. And there's a lot of douchebags out here, yeah, but there's a lot of really amazing people out here too. But we always want to jump to the worst in things. It's like, yeah, it's like going to movies too. I've got a lot. So I'm a huge MCU fan. I'm like diehard, like cannot wait for the next Marvel movie every time a new one comes out. Man, I'm like from like Iron Man 1. I've been like, I'm invested, right? Yeah. So, I can't wait to see the conclusion. But there's a lot of people that I know that are like movie lovers too. And they're just like, oh my God, I hate these stupid Marvel movies. And I'm like, wow, really? They're just like, I can't, I hate it. It's so, they're so stupid and they're so like boring and it's the same thing over and over. And I'm like, I disagree. I personally disagree, but I guess I respect that opinion. I feel it's like, and then I'll ask them, I'm like, well, how many have you seen? They're like, I mean, I haven't really seen it. I saw like one part of like the third movie that came out. It's like, so you watched like half of Captain America, the First Avenger, and now all of them are crap because they're all the same. It's like, oh, I never watched them beyond that because they're all the same. I'm like, you don't know because you've never watched them. You've never put the time in and given them any kind of like chance. So that's, to kind of circle back, it's like I feel like there's just so much of that attitude in the FGC right now. At very least with Street Fighter 5, because that's the only one that I'm really close to. But I mean, I'm just saying, man, like when I see King of Fighters 14 players posting stuff, they're not complaining like that. It's the Street Fighter heads. Come on, guys. Like, we're better than this. We got to be better than this. And especially if we want them to keep making games, it's like, I mean, if I were a Street Fighter, if I were like on the Street Fighter development team, I'd be like, man, fuck this crap. I don't want to make them another game. It's like how many hours I got a wife and kids at home that I don't see because I'm in here trying to get the goddamn net code working for you guys, and y'all don't appreciate anything. So
right?
It's sometimes it's tough. Yeah, it's tough hearing people just kind of rip it to shreds, and it's like, well, then don't play it. Don't play it, I guess.
It makes me think of like Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. I hear a lot of people like Maximilian and others talk about the game is technically sound. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Then you hear all the people saying, oh, it's crap, it's this, it's that. If I was Capcom and Marvel, I'd be like, no, you're not getting MVC4. You're not getting an update to this. Like, the toxicity killed the game in its debut and first year. Like, it's not even, I think it just made a year. And just the negativity alone, like, gamers, I don't feel like they understand how quickly they can kill a game with their toxic nature.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of like knee-jerk reactions to things, and I'm of course, like, I'm not, I'm no saint myself. Like, I've certainly like had my share of those, and I've tried to over the years stop doing that as much. But kind of what it takes is like, you've got to kind of be able to like, it's okay to feel a certain way, but like, don't talk about it as though it's like absolute. Like,
yeah,
it's okay to not like a thing, but like, you don't need to get on Twitter or like, it's your prerogative. Go ahead if you must. Yeah. But I feel like, why get on Twitter and just start like blasting it to pieces? It's like, I mean, give it some time to breathe, man. Pop the cork, let that puppy breathe. It's an aged red wine. Let it breathe a little bit, So it's like, sometimes, yeah, just community response to a thing can like, yeah, it can kind of like really hurt a thing. It's like, if there's not enough response to it, it can just really hurt the chances of anything moving forward with the game. It sounds like, yeah, like Marvel Infinite, it kind of, there's probably a lot going on with that too, between like Marvel and Capcom and licensing thereof and all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure that there were a lot of things, like they weren't able to get like the X-Men, and there were a lot of like I know a lot of players were just like, it's like almost the same cast as the last game, but like half the size, which I can appreciate. But at the same time, like you said, it's a very different game. A lot of the Marvel Infinite heads are like, yo, it's a really cool game. It's completely different from the other games. It doesn't even feel like an old Versus game. It's like Marvel crossed with like SFXT or something, So yeah, it's tough. Like, when we don't know a lot about a thing, but we talk as though we know a lot about a thing, it's like, man, that stuff just kind of, it catches fire. And now next thing you know, like, everybody's grabbing a pitchfork and a torch, and, we're like beating down the front door, and it's like, we want blood. So yeah,
that's kind of like how our society is now. Like, if you have an opinion, ooh, dangerous.
Yeah. you ain't lying, man. Yeah, you this is the biggest mood, man.
And speaking of like Street Fighter Cross Tekken, I gotta ask you, because maybe we got the same opinion on this, maybe we don't. It's okay if we don't, but I have to ask, was it really that bad of a game with this gym system, especially like with games like Fighting EX Layer, which recently came out? It's also using a similar gym system, or was it just ahead of its time?
So for SFXT, I think, truth be told, like, I think SFXT was like, it was like destined to be one of the biggest fighting games ever. Like, just based on like the hype surrounding it.
It was astronomical.
Oh my God. It was like, I went back and actually, it's funny that you mentioned it because like I went back like a couple months ago and I was just, I was in one of those moods where I was perusing silly things on YouTube and I found the original reveal trailer where it showed like there were no health bars, anything like that. It was just the really commonly played Tekken stage where it was like Kazuya versus Ryu, and then they tagged Chun-Li and Nina, and the crowd was like, "Whoa!"
Right?
Loaded. And then they did, okay, so I think the things that really hurt SFXT were the fact that there were some really broken things early on, like some of the characters had some really crazy looking, and if not infinites, like damn near infinites, They had some really, really crazy things. There were some extremely powerful characters early on. The gem system was not really what people wanted. And the fact that there was a lot of like DLC content, which that was like one of the big games that really kicked off the whole like on disc DLC that people were like, what the fuck, man? I'm not paying for this. And it's like, And then they actually went and patched the game and they fixed a lot of things, and a lot of players would say that it was a really good game post patch, but it had like fizzled out, So kind of like, hang on, we got this, we fixed it, but it was kind of too late for it. So, I do actually still see people talk about it. Like once in a while, I'll see like up in like NorCal, like LPN and the Pandora House guys, like all those guys up there. Still like bust out SFXT sometimes, and I guess people still play it though. So you're gonna have like your devout fans no matter what, I suppose.
Yeah, because 2 days ago, actually, I went on YouTube and like it popped up like one of the trailers, and I just started watching all the old trailers. Then I watched the video, the live action one from 1,000 Pound Productions, and I'm like, there was so much
Kazuya where he gets out of the car and shit.
Yeah, dude, like there was so much hype, the promotion behind it. That should have been the game. It should have been.
Yeah. It was like the new CVS, like the new like Capcom versus CVS versus SNK. It was like, oh my God, we never thought we'd see a game like this. And then it was suddenly a thing. And it just, it's a bummer. It's a bummer that it didn't take off better than it did. So...
And I think the window too when it came out wasn't that good, because you got to think they came out with that during the real big height of Street Fighter 4, and also Tekken Tag Tournament 2 was around the corner. So I don't think like that was the right time for it, but also like I think like the most hyped trailer for it was that one with the Cody and Guy reveal. And then that was before the
Hugo game. And King. And, the wrestling where they come strolling in, and
it's like then you find out that their DLC, which that was a bad move. That was bad. And then they're locked on the disc. I was like, man.
That was definitely, that created a lot of controversy because people were like, yo, man, these characters are ready on day one, but they're locked on the disc. So you're going to deny us like half the cast, or maybe not quite half the cast, but like a big chunk of the cast.
Yeah.
But they're ready to go. You're just going to make us buy them though. Like, and that really, I think that really, really irritated a lot of people. And then the gem system, I can't remember exactly what like the big complaints were with the gem system. Excuse me. I think sometimes it was just like a matter of like like certain things were just too strong with the gems, the way that they were implemented. And that coupled with the DLC, like the on-disc locked characters and things like that. And it just wasn't, it's really unfortunate. Like that's like one of the saddest fates of a fighting game I've ever seen, because that was such a cool game. In fact, that had me hyped to play Tekken. I was, holy crap, dude, this makes me like actually want to try these games. And, it just ended up being like, I was watching it and it was kind of a bummer. I remember they were doing like really neat things with it too. I remember they were doing like the 2v2 tag tournaments and stuff. They were doing like the two team
Yeah.
Like, it was really neat. Some of the things they did with that game was like,
was it Cross Assault? I think that's what they called it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really unfortunate, and
I agree.
I feel like it really hampered Namco doing Tekken Cross Street Fighter, because they were, and then they saw that and they're like, okay.
Yeah, because they were like, I mean, it was like not even like a speculated thing. They were like, Harada was just like, yeah, it's like being worked on, you know?
Yeah.
And then and after that it was like completely just radio silence on it, you know? So that's a bummer too, because that would have been really cool to see as well. So
don't you think that with Akuma being in Tekken 7, that was kind of like to gauge and see what the response would be if there's still like a hype for it?
I feel, I think that was part of it, or if nothing else, that was perhaps like, that was their way of kind of following through in some capacity with the original idea. They also added Geese Howard, you know, and they were like, here's a couple of 2D fighting game characters in Tekken. And it's such a bummer because, you know, then you see how like Akuma and Geese were implemented, and it's like, oh my God, they worked so well in the game. You know, they worked just so naturally in the game. It was so cool to see that in motion, and it would have been really cool to see a fully fleshed out game with like other Street Fighter characters in it. So I fingers crossed. Like, I would still just love to see a thing like that for the Tekken community too. You know, it's like, you know, I'm always a fan of seeing new fighting games come out. You know, not all of them are going to be great. Not all of them are going to be, you know, trend setting or anything like that. You know, they're not going to be like in the pantheon of fighting games, but it's cool to just see that there's still, like, if there's a demand for them and they're still coming out and there's new things coming out, that's always a thing, because at least it shows that there's life in the genre still. So when games suddenly are just getting like hacked and like not coming out and nothing new is coming out, that's when I'll start like worrying about the genre. So
yeah. All right, we're winding down to our last couple questions. And this next one, it's kind of a common question I ask, but I only ask this to people in the FGC because I think it's imperative to get the perspective. Sure. But, you know, the FGC, it has been primarily responsible for keeping the fighting game genre alive with critical moments. You know, you had Daigo's epic comeback, you know, and pushing for major tournaments, both local, national, and global.
Sure.
Do you think that they, you know, we as the FGC will be able to maintain that momentum, especially with coverage from groups like E-League? And are they likely to draw more people into the scene, or will people be scared away by some of the more toxicness that is kind of surrounding the FGC? And I think the FGC isn't really toxic, but I think there are toxic people that are louder than the actual FGC. But sure. What is your take?
Well, that's a really good question. That I guess that kind of, I mean, man, that one hits pretty close to home. I feel that one. So I think you're gonna, you know, I use the LA example again. It's like there's 4 million or so of us out here. You're gonna have like really loud, obnoxious shitbags no matter where you go. It's up to the people who are not the loud, obnoxious shitbags to be, at very least, if you're not going to be just as loud, you need to make sure that you're at least being ever present, right? So I think for every toxic streamer out there who, and not naming names, but, you know, rage quits on everybody and, you know,
damn, we went there.
Bitches and like throws out slurs and does, you know, like jabbing at people's like real life situations and takes the shit out of like fighting game context. It's like, for every one of those kind of people, there needs to be somebody who is like, yo, man, screw that. Like, come to my stream instead. And like, I'll teach you how to play. Like, I'll teach you how to play. And then you can maybe go on and teach others how to play. Like,
I have to do it. I have to do it.
Go ahead. Like, it's even necessary, right? Like, you don't even need to like say anything. And here's the problem. All right, I'm gonna be really, really fucking real about this because this shit bothers me. All right, I'm gonna just cut to this, right? It bothers me. It bothers me when people who do that kind of thing, where that's their shtick, is like, I don't, no offense, but like, I don't think you're that good of a fucking actor. That's probably kind of you in real life. You probably get some level of catharsis from being able to just like really vent on stream. And I think a lot of the act is real life. When you're like, no, man, I'm not like that. I'm actually like a really nice guy. It's like, I think that's the act. I think we're seeing you as yourself on stream, and the act is you in person buddying up to people, because you really get to see somebody like as they are. Like when you just like are getting heated and toxic, it's like there's probably a lot of that deep down. And it's unfortunate when it's like fighting games are kind of your platform for like venting all of that kind of stuff, right? You're not involved in politics, so you don't have a platform there. You're not doing anything like super huge out where you get to like have your voice heard outside of like streaming or doing something like that. So that's your platform. And when you just use that to sort of like spread that level of toxicity, it's like, well, then that's what people see, and it's like, but the problem with that is that that's not really sustainable. So it seems as though the community kind of like passes on and like leaves those sorts of things behind, because it's not really sustainable. Like, I think the people who kind of realize that it's like, yo, man, that we got to be like a little more mature about this. Like, if we want it to have any kind of future, we have to be a little more mature about this, because nobody wants you on their goddamn channel spouting off and like talking. You know what I mean? It's like, grassroots is cool, man. Don't get me wrong. Grassroots is really cool. And like talking shit and talking smack about fighting games and stuff is like, that's what we do. But at the same time, there's like a level of etiquette that you need to maintain if you want it to move into like bigger things, because people don't want to like have a room full of like man boys talking trash and like bringing disabilities and sexual orientation into it. And it's like, oh my God, like cut. We can't have, you need to like stop talking like that. Like, it's like, well, that's just me being me. It's like, that's the problem, is you're being you. Stop being you. Like, maybe try and be a better person. Like, we can use you if you're a better person, but you're not a particularly good person. And that's the problem, I think, is that it's like everybody can have a voice nowadays. And we love memes. We love hot takes. We love things like that. So that's the stuff that's like, with our limited attention span, we need things that are like immediately stimulating. And what's more stimulating than like, fuck this stupid shit, man. Fuck this dumbass. Yo, man, get put in the corner, banned, blah, 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 blah. Like, rather than like actually having somewhere where, a new player can be like, yo, man, this is really cool. I actually really appreciated this stream, or I enjoyed watching this person coach this person, or something like that. Like, who the hell wants to be a part of a thing when it feels like the moment you try to be, there's going to be people that are just like, you're a scrub, fuck you, eat shit, die. I hope your family gets run over and all that. It's like, damn, man, like, you're making it about my family now? Like, why? We're playing video games. Why? So I think it's like, there have to be some positive people, or else it's not going to work. There's got to be like some positive voices among all the really toxic voices. But that being said, I think there are a lot of really positive voices too. There's a lot of negative ones, but there's a lot of really positive ones too. So I think as long as those positive voices are being heard, it'll be fine. Yeah. I think the other ones, I think they kind of out, and they get like so much steam, and then it's like, that's kind of just where they stop growing, because I mean, hell, a lot of those players too, like their gameplay becomes stunted. Like their growth becomes stunted as a player, just like their success in real life becomes kind of stunted because, in Hollywood, man, like nobody wants to work with a shithead actor. It's like, this person's impossible to work with. They make everything difficult. we're cutting them from a movie and recasting them because they just won't cooperate. So it's, I think that toxicity has to be taken with a grain of salt, and you just kind of have to like I just try not to give it too much time and energy, you know, like I've got my own things going on. Like I try not to get too involved with that stuff. And again, like not naming names or anything, because it's like, you know, there's a couple that pop to mind, obviously, but there's a lot more than just those couple that pop to mind, you know. So they're gonna do them. Yo, respect to you for doing your thing. If that's your hustle, like I respect it, dude. Like do you, man. Like do you. But just know that you're doing you. Like that's you. So like I don't want my mom popping to my stream randomly and seeing her grown son talking about how, like, you know, like talking about bitches and they ain't shit, and like it's like, man, that's me, you know. Like I don't want like myself to be portrayed that way. I like to think that I'm a little bit better than that.
Yeah.
And I try to conduct myself a little bit more professionally than that, you know.
And it's like, you think about it too, like if you look at E-League TV, when they had the show on TBS, certain people were brought on just for the controversy, which was going to boost ratings. But,
right. So yeah, like there's a place for everything. Yeah. Like, you know, but at the same time, it's like, you know, in these people's defense, it's like, I don't know you. I don't know you in real life. So maybe you are like a really cool person in real life, but I wouldn't really want to get to know you based on like what I perceive from like the way that you portray yourself. It's like, I don't know that I'd want to get to know you that much. You don't seem very approachable, you know? So if that's your goal, is to ostracize people and to keep new people from wanting to engage, then I guess mission accomplished. Because some of these players, it's like, I see your stream and I'm like, there's nothing about this stream that would make me ever be inspired to want to like learn this game and try to be a part of the community ever. It would be like, wow, that was neat for all of 5 minutes. Wow, I'm tired of watching this like man boy whine and bitch and complain and cuss and rage on stream, you know? So I don't know. I can't handle that. Like we all get a little heated over video games because we take it, you know, like, because it's fighting games. We love it. But there's like a line, I think. And like when you start crossing that line, it's like, you gotta start thinking about I don't know, man. I'm probably thinking about like what's really important in life. It's like, dude, I mean, like maybe you just need something else in life to be important for you, you know? So, and not naming names, but if that's you and you hear me and like that's, and if that's resonating, then like, hey, you can come check. Maybe I can help give you some help, man. Like, come check my stream out. I don't know. So I don't know.
I would love to see who's got the better Urian.
Oh, a nameless individual. Truth be told, like I would actually like to see that too. Like I think it'd be interesting to see, but the problem is that I don't think that I could ever like get the guy at his best. I mean, I don't even know what his best would be. You know, it's like, I guess when you're constantly just like ripping cables out of the wall, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what would the best look like. I don't know. So, but yeah, like it is what it is, you know. You're gonna have those people, and jokes aside, it's like those people have been around since the beginning of the FGC, right? Like if it's not on a stream, it's the dude that shows up at your arcade that's just kind of like, oh my god, man, we don't fucking throw in this arcade. That's the way to get your ass beat in this arcade, you know. And it's like, I mean, damn, dude, it's a game. It's a game, really. Like, you're gonna like flip the table because you landed on Park Place and Monopoly. Like, my bad. I'm sorry that I bought it and you owe me some fake money now. You know, it's not that serious, man. Motherfuckers are getting like bombed overseas and shit. You know, and we're getting fired up. It's just the day and age. It's like a product of the times, I think, you know. It's just the new thing to get fired up about. Now there's streaming and everybody wants to be famous for something. And like, how do I be a flash in the pan? You know, how do I like get people to pay attention to me in the short amount of time that they will pay attention to me, you know? And so, hey man, like, no, I respect that aspect. If nothing else, I respect that. Like, if you're trying to do something unique, do it, you know, but just, you know, people are going to see you a certain way. And if that's what you want your legacy to be, then like, okay, that's fine. I think like for me, I want my legacy to be a little more meaningful than that. Just me personally, like I want more than that. I feel like I want a little more depth to whatever legacy I have, you know, like if people remember me at the end of my days of playing fighting games is like, dude, he was just a good dude who was super helpful with the community. He always like, he got me into it and he helped me with this. And he even kind of helped me get into VO and all that kind of stuff. It's like, that's something that I can be proud of, you know, like that's something that I can be like, I could happily bow out of fighting games with something like that, you know, but not everybody's me. So I respect that too. We're all different.
Man, I got to give you, you know, the Kasanova Podcast award for the best shots fired I have ever seen. I'm over here like...
I've been listening to this stupid fucking shit for like 2.5 years. I am so sick of like hearing all the silly stuff about like this game and like what gets people like attention nowadays. It's like it's like madness sometimes, and I always keep my mouth shut. I don't pop off on Twitter like that. Once in a while I've done it, and I like as soon as I do it I'm like, no, I don't want to stir the pot, and like I'll do it now, and it's like, yo man, it all just kind of broiled to the surface, and like it came out. I'm sorry. So sorry, not sorry. Like it is what it is, you know. But in general, no hate to anybody. I don't ever wish any ill will on anybody. I don't care who the person is. No ill will. Do you, man? Like you got to do you. Just know that like it's, you know, people are watching you, and that can be good or it can be bad. And a thing that you may think is good now could be bad later, you know. Yeah. Like, especially in the entertainment industry, man, like you got to be real careful with that shit, man. Like that people remember, the internet remembers. So, you know,
and it never goes away.
Be careful. Just be careful. That's all I'm saying.
All right. You know, we're down to the last 3 questions in, man, we're about to go into more controversial territory. We're about to talk about the Smash community.
Okay.
Because, you know, Smash Bros. Is often considered by many as a great fighting game. Mm-hmm. Yet, on the other hand, there's a vocal majority, myself included, that view Smash as nothing more than a fun party game or a fun battle royale type game.
Sure.
But what is your take on the status of Smash being part of the FGC or the fighting game community? And do you feel the Smash community is toxic or just passionate about their preferred game?
They're definitely passionate. I will say that they are definitely passionate. I think, first of all, I think it's a fighting game. I used to be strongly against that notion. I was just like, it's not exact same thing. I was like, it's a party game. But then I started thinking about it, and I was just like, well, I mean, what is a fighting game? A fighting game is like a game in which 2 characters on screen controlled by 2 human players like battle with specified movesets until the other KO'd in one way or another. And in that regard, it's like, I mean, Smash is a fighting game, especially when it's played in a competitive capacity, because it's like 1v1. And even though, you know, it's got like strange stages that are shifting and things like that, it's like, it is like, I mean, I watched Hungrybox versus Armada in grand finals at Evo 2 years ago, like live. I was like my first Evo ever. And I'm not going to lie, like I got up and went to Mandalay Bay with my buddies, and I was like, yo, Smash is kind of hype. Like I was like, I don't really know the games that well, but I was into it. I was like, holy shit, like I kind of understand what's going on, and this looks difficult. You know, like this is very, very difficult to play at high level. And I started getting like new respect for the game. It's not really my cup of tea gameplay wise. It's just not really my thing. But I definitely feel like, I mean, I think it's a fighting game for sure. I think it's a very unique kind of fighting game though. I almost feel like it's kind of a disservice to Smash to call it a fighting game. I almost don't mean that in a disrespectful way. You know, it's not like, oh, it's not a fighting game, but it's not like a traditional fighting game. It's almost like it's its own unique thing. And other games have actually tried to emulate Smash's formula, you know, like, and not been so successful. Smash is kind of its own really cool, unique thing, but it's hard to deny. You know, even the percentages and stuff, like the life percentages, that's like a health bar basically. And once the health bar is like, it's instead of being depleted, it builds up, and the closer you, like the further up it gets, the easier it is to like smash someone, right? So in that regard, it's like it still feels like there's health bars, there's like special moves, there's anti-airs, there's very unique mobility. There's there's a lot of stuff to chew on, and I feel like I would be like speaking out of my expertise, my level of expertise, my area of expertise, by saying that it's not a fighting game. Like I feel like I would be kind of speaking from a lack of experience with the game, because in the stuff that I've seen, it definitely feels like a fighting game. You know, like I've kind of come back around on it, and watching the game at the highest level possible, the Evo Grand Stage, it definitely felt like watching a fighting game. You know, like it felt like watching a very, very odd competitive fighting game. You know, but yeah. And in terms of the community, I mean, again, I don't know as much about the Smash community, but I can only imagine that it's like any other. It's like the Street Fighter V community. It's like you're going to have your really, really toxic players, but you're also going to have your really, really cool players, you know? I think it just like the more and more popular a thing is, you know, you're going to have like your really, really vile, toxic, like NFL fans and NBA fans. And then you're going to have like really, really cool NBA fans who just, they love basketball, or they love football, and they, you know, they love being a part of the community. And I think no matter what you have, the more and more people you add to a thing, the more the chances just simply improve to have like more bad people and more good people. So in terms of like, but I think I know what you're talking about. There tends to be like a lot of, you know, you hear of you always see like the gifs of people like slamming controllers down and things like that. And I, you know, again, like in playing traditional fighting games, I've definitely seen my fair share of that as well. You know, like seeing people throwing controllers over Street Fighter or Guilty Gear is certainly nothing new. But yeah, I think Smash sometimes probably gets kind of a bad rap. But like, I'm sure the Smash community is like some good folks. You know, like it's gonna have its bad apples, of course, but I'm sure it's probably good at its core. I'm sure it's probably just fine. So yeah.
You know, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with this is a FGC commentator. He's a podcaster and YouTuber as well, Max Splicer. He's a good friend of mine.
Okay.
He did a video where he talked about how there is a disconnect between the FGC and the Smash community. And I agree with that. Like, and I also agree with like your take on how like Smash is its own unique thing, because like I've had experiences like with other YouTubers that are diehard Smash fans, and I can say, hey, I don't think it's a fighting game. And before I can even finish the thought, they're coming at me with the pitchforks and tiki torches.
How dare you?
And it's like, I'm over here like, wait, let me finish.
Right.
Because I'm like, look, it's such a unique thing that everybody is trying. Sony's trying to copy them. You know, you had all these indie studios. You had Brawl Out. You know, you've got all these other games coming out trying to be like Smash.
Yeah.
You've got all these companies that make fighting games putting their characters in Smash. And you got Nintendo saying, hey, it's a battle arena royale. Like, they're not even trying to, I feel like trying to, and I'm also going to quote Sakurai, who has said that trying to just say it's a fighting game limits it so much to what it is. It's so much more. And he doesn't want to be stuck like, oh, I can only do this because it's a fighting game. And it's like, it's its own category. And I feel like people should just let it be that. Stop trying to make it. It can fit in the realms of the FGC, yeah, and tournaments and whatnot. But it's its own unique experience. It's sure. Like it, you know? So
yeah, it's funny because to kind of play off of what you're saying, it's like, you know, like was it Brawlhalla and games like that where and then there was that there was like the Namco one, right? That had like the Namco characters in it that was like Hayachi in it or something, and like I think like Pac-Man or I can't remember exactly who all was in it, but it's like those games I would say that those are Smash games. You know, like those games are part of like the genre of games that fall into like Smash, that like Smash kind of helped define, like Smash Brothers. So it's like a lot of those games, I would call those games Smash games. You know, like and again, like it does fall into the realm of like fighting game competition, but it just feels so different than your traditional fighting game. There's more going on than a traditional fighting game in a lot of ways. You know, like when you've got like environmental hazards and, you know, you can like fall off the stage and that can kill you, you know, it's like, it's just so different. But then again, it's like that, then we see things like in Soul Calibur where you can get like knocked out of the ring. And so there are definitely shades of Smash in you know, in other fighting games too. So I agree. It's hard to put just a label on it and call it like a fighting game, because it definitely is. Like there's one-on-one combat with bars of some sort. I mean, really with the I forget what it's called, the Smash Ball. Like, I mean, there's even super moves, you know, like, but the thing is like, you know, it's whoever gets it first. So like one character gets a super move depending on like, you know, or nobody gets a super move if it like breaks and then goes away and nobody picked it up. So there's interesting parts of it that really feel like a fighting game, but yeah, it does. It feels like a very unique experience compared to most of the traditional like 2D and 3D fighting games. It feels very different from those.
Yeah. So. And I think around that time, actually before it came out, Power Stone dropped.
Oh, man.
And I kind of feel like Power Stone was actually like the beginning of this type of genre, and Nintendo just perfected it. But there are aspects from Power Stone 2 that I have noticed that from Melee and onwards, like Smash has incorporated a lot from Power Stone. Like, and I don't see a lot of people talking about that, but I'm like, go back and play Power Stone 2 and tell me a lot of that game did not inspire Melee with Ice Climbers, like with the scrolling levels and whatnot, because that was in Power Stone.
Yeah, that game definitely, the you know, despite the fact that it was like arena style, it was really, really neat. And like, I forget, like in Power Stone, I think, because you have to collect the 3 stones and then you basically transform into like the super version of your character for like a limited time. And that kind of feels like collecting an item in Smash, you know, and suddenly now you've got like a small window with which to use this power up. And I can certainly see how like influences could have been taken from one or the other, for sure. For sure.
All right. And then, you know, down to our last two questions. This is going to be when it comes to fighting games. I have to ask you. Minus that bus is right there by my window.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. Hey, we keep it organic on this podcast. Bus, if you need to go to the west side, catch the A, it's going to take you there. So I have to ask you, what advice would you give to someone who's looking to get into fighting games? Would you say using like a fight stick or fight pad? Like, what do you feel is the best way to get started? For either or for both, Alan.
For either for both. Well, I mean, I can't even lie. Like when I was living in, middle of nowhere, Illinois, growing up, I was learning Street Fighter 2 on a Super NES pad, just like everybody else, man. Unless you lived in like, Arcadeville, USA, in one of the big cities or something, and yeah, I grew up on playing pad because, a lot of it, too, was I just wasn't big enough to reach the arcade sticks. So I had to play on pad or I didn't play at all. And besides that, it's like, man, my mom's not going to give me like money to play arcades because it's a stupid waste of money. So can't even get a quarter for a freaking game of Street Fighter. But
I mean, compared to stuff you see at like Dave & Buster's nowadays,
yeah,
a quarter's cheap.
It's like, I'm trying to pay like $6 to play Jurassic Park. It ain't that damn fun shit. Like, what do I get to like eat the broiled dinosaur afterwards or something? Or is it gonna like make me dinner? But yeah, I think for fighting games in general, it really depends on just what's comfortable for you as a player. I eventually, of course, I gravitated to I gravitated to arcade stick years later, and I just Street Fighter, like fighting games in general on an arcade stick feel just totally natural to me now. But even within the realm of arcade sticks, some people prefer, Sanwa buttons, or some people prefer Saimitsu buttons, or some people prefer square gates versus octagonal gates, or perfect 360s and things like that. So, yeah, I think you really have to you got to just like pick it up and try it, just try it. And the same goes for fighting games in general. Like if you're trying to get into them, if you're trying to get into Street Fighter 5, hit me up. That's step one.
Coach Butler.
Hit me up, hit your boy up. But no, pick what game looks cool to you. Pick it up. Try it, pick a character that looks cool, pick the arcade stick, pick a controller. I mean, if you own a game console, chances are it came with a controller. So give that a shot. Does it grow on you? No, not really. Then try a stick. See if that works. Dude, I have friends that play on keyboard. One of my good buddies, my good buddy Jeff, he learned fighting games on a keyboard, and now he exclusively plays on a hitbox. So he just plays on purely buttons, no arcade stick at all. So yeah, I think my advice would be just pick a starting point, because you'll never know unless you just pick it up and try, right? Like, you'll never know if Guilty Gear is too difficult for you unless you just pick up Guilty Gear and try to play it. You'll never know if Tekken is too hard for you to play on stick if you don't just pick it up and play it. So yeah, I think just pick it up and go, because you got to get started before you really know. And give it some time. Give it a little time. Don't play for a week, you guys, and then write it off. I know that's like what we do nowadays, but give it a little time.
I have to say,
yeah, man,
I had to devote when I switched over to using arcade stick or fight stick.
I love that stuff.
This year. Yes, I lucked out. I got it from a guy off Craigslist for $62.
Yeah, that's the best.
In like mint condition.
And
it's like
arcade stick score, man.
Man, it's so crazy. So like when I switched to using arcade stick, I've been a pad player all my life. I played in arcades, and a lot of stuff that I was trying to translate from or transition from pad to stick just wasn't working. But thankfully, my friends at Video Games Hawaii, Ray Blade X and Keith Lemos, like they really helped me get good on stick. And they told me, like, look, you're gonna have to stick with it for a month. Like anytime you play,
right,
just play it. And they're like, you're gonna suck. You're gonna think you're playing. You're gonna think you're playing
already. You're like, God damn it.
Right? They're like, you're gonna think you're horrible. Doesn't matter. Just stick with it. Anytime you play the game, play with stick.
Right.
And after a while, it's just gonna click. And it did. Like now I've got I got a fight stick collection. I need to build a shelf because I'm turning them sideways and stacking them like this.
Nice.
And I'm picking up another fight stick tonight. I'm getting the Soul Calibur 6, the Xbox One version. I have the PlayStation 4 version, and I'm like just getting stick after stick after stick, and I'm like, I'm playing them all. I'm playing with the Hayabusa buttons. I'm playing with the Sanova buttons. I've got a Mixbox. They reached out to me to review one of their Mixbox controllers. Man. I'm gonna be reviewing that. Victrix hit me up. I'm like, I'm curious to try that out.
Cool, man.
It's like
that's cool. That's really cool.
Like I've gotten to this point where I'm like, I can play fighting games with pad, but stick just feels natural.
It's like what you become used to. Yeah. Same here for sure. Like I can play on pad, but it just feels so like, okay, I got to really concentrate on this, but like a stick. Yeah. I mean, that's just like effortless. Like I feel like it's just at home for me. I've learned what's comfortable, and it's definitely become, like pretty much since I started becoming competitive, it became like my standard. So like stick is definitely like how I personally roll, but hey, there are some players out there that would make me look like I've never touched a fighting game in my life, and they play on pad. So you never know. Like those pad warriors, man, those scary folks. Mana, I see you guys. It's nasty pad players out there. So.
All right, and and winding down to my last question, it's one question, but it's two questions in one. So
Fire.
We're gonna roll with it.
Okay.
So what advice would you give to someone looking to get into fighting games who would, either playing or they want to pick it up and play competitively? And also, what advice would you give to someone who's looking to get into like being a streamer on Twitch or a content creator?
Okay.
Two separate questions. I just rolled them into one.
Sure. Well, competitive fighting games. Well, first of all, just if you already are playing a game, if you're like, you know what, I've been playing Street Fighter for like a few years, and like I really like when I see all these tournaments and stuff, and it's gotten me like really excited. I kind of want to like try and dip my toes into that. First of all, like find out if there's any kind of really cool like things that go on in your area. Like hop online, hop on Twitter. That is the easiest thing in the world to do. Like grab a Twitter account, hop on Twitter, and just tweet out like, hey, does anybody start following the people that you like on Twitter, and just reach out. Like, hey, does anybody? I live in like the such and such area or something of Los Angeles, and I wondered if anybody out here is like playing. And chances are you're going to have somebody be like, oh yeah, there's a Game Realms tourney in Burbank every other week for all kinds of games with like, General Azad, Commander Jesse, Guilty has rolled through, Vicious commentates when he's around in town, then there's Wednesday night fights out here. If you're, like, and maybe the scene won't be that large or that reputable, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be, you can get so much mileage out of having like 2, 3, 4 people locally that you can just meet up with on a weekly basis. Like, pick like one night a week. That's what me and my buddies do. We and it's not always the same night, like we'll just be like, we've got like a group chat going, and we'll just be like, hey, what works for everybody this week? And we'll be like, hey, I'm off Wednesday. Cool. Let's meet up Wednesday. And we'll just jam. We'll just run sets for like a few hours a night. And that's like a really good way to just get involved. Start like making some contacts with people and like start seeing like who's even playing in your area. And if you don't happen to see that there's anybody there, shit, be the first. Just start reaching out for people and see if you can get people interested. And really at that point, it's just, buckling down and like seeking out the information that is more than likely already there. You just have to find it. Again, this kind of comes back to like, it puts a bow on everything we've talked about. It's like, sometimes you got to go out and you got to like get the information, like just because you don't know the answer to something doesn't mean that it's not there. Like if it wasn't there, then how are all these other people doing it? You just need to go find it. Right. So my advice definitely would be just see if there's a scene already where you're at. And in a lot of cases, there probably is, like you can always find somebody in your local area, especially if you're in like a college town or a big city or something like that. There's always something going on.
Yeah.
And if not, reach out to social media. I think that is a good use of Twitter. Like,
yeah,
it's, like aside from just like shit posting and like hot takes and things like that, I love me some memes, man. Don't get me wrong. Like I've given myself a headache from laughing hard at Twitter, right? What my Twitter use is like reaching out to people and like asking for games, like, hey, where's this thing going on? Or like, who, does anybody want to like run a lounge or something like that? And next thing you know, right, like I don't really have a scene out here, but now like I've got the Shimmy Network, and it's a Discord group of like tons of people. And at any given moment, I could just pop open Discord and be like, hey, who's on? And I'll get people that'll be like, oh, I'll run games, or I've got like time for a first to 5. And there you go. You have a scene. You've got a scene, right?
Yeah.
So that's all you need. If you want to start competing, link up with people. Just link up with people. Come out of your shell a little bit and link up with people and start trading info. And be a good person, man. Like nobody wants you around if you're going to show up and act like an asshole, right? Because it's okay to be confident in your ability, but don't show up and be a fucking know-it-all. Nobody wants to play with that person. Like that's a good way to start getting like uninvited to things, right? Like, so show up. Maybe it's hard to do, but show a little humility. Show up, act like, like maybe you don't know everything. Cause I mean, you're coming into somebody else's scene, so show a little respect, that's in a case in point, like what I did with the King of Fighters community. Like I'm like a stranger in a strange land, right? Like I'm not going to go in like just waving it around like I'm fucking running shit, So I showed up and I was just like, well, like, hey, can you guys like show me how to do this thing? I got a lot of mileage out of that. I mean, obviously you don't got to be like sheepish and shy about it, but be respectful, I guess is what I'm saying. Like people will want you around. I've had some really heated players, people that I know who are like have like a reputation for getting pretty heated and kind of shit talky. And they're really cool with me just because I'm just like, hey, yo, man, good games. Thank you so much for like, thanks for like running that set with me. I think I get this a little better now. And they're like, oh yeah, cool, man. Just like anytime, just hit me up, And so I never personally have like a shortage of players to play with because I just try to be cool with everybody, right? And you're not always going to be cool with everybody, but try to be cool with everybody. Like you don't got to go in guns blazing. In terms of like content stuff, I think for me, like what kind of helped me get started was I wanted to do it. I wanted to try it. I just wanted to try streaming. And so, yeah, like I said, I mean, here, it's this thing right here, my little PlayStation 4 camera. And, I had the whole, like, I'm still the daddy stream going on where it's just like, like my little picture and stuff. And like that dude's got like the biggest following and he's never had to change anything. Like shout outs to the daddy, man. The general, I'll see you with the guile, boom, boom. So I respect that. Like, but for me, it was like fun trying to kind of build and do more with it. I was just like, I kind of want mine to look a little cooler. And that was just personal preference. I was like, it's fun trying to get into the production side of things a little bit. And I like that stuff. I think it's like really cool to kind of try and, you know, it's like, man, this is my project. This is my baby. Like, this is your podcast. You know, you work hard, you care about this. And for the content creation stuff, you know, I'm still pretty new to it, like I said, but I just try to put the same kind of like love and energy and care into it that I would anything that I care about. You know, if I'm trying to like level up my Urian game, like I'm going to work hard at it. If I'm trying to level up my streaming game, like I'm going to work hard at that. You know, the artwork and stuff, you know, like these preview images and stuff that you put on all your episodes. It's like they don't just magically happen. Like you have to do all that, you know?
Yeah.
So if you're somebody who's wanting to get into that kind of stuff, it's like, I mean, hell, if you're tuning in right now, you're watching a perfect example of how to kind of get that kind of stuff going. This is a good place to check out, you know, check out the good streamers on Twitch, you know, or Mixer, or whatever your cup of tea happens to be. I've got friends on both, and you know, see if you enjoy it. Like just get going. See if you enjoy it. Pick a thing to stream first of all. Get yourself some very basic equipment. Don't put a lot of money into it. You don't need to. Just get it fired up and see if you like it. And if you like it, go from there. You know, you can expand as needed. And a lot of times too, like people will start expanding as like they'll once the stream maybe starts like generating a little money for them, they'll just take it and put it right back into their stream, you know. And it's like, hey, we got better quality cameras now. We got a green screen, and now we got cool things happening on screen, and it will start growing organically. But you don't want to put like the carriage before the horse, or did I say that right? Yeah. I always mess that saying.
Horse before the carriage.
Horse before the carriage. Oh my God. One of these days I'm going to get that right. You don't want to like put the horse before the carriage and be like, well, I invested in all this crazy expensive equipment and time to stream. Why am I only getting 5 viewers average? And it's like, well, you might have jumped the gun a little bit, like, you know? So, yeah, I think you just kind of got to like start small. Let it be kind of grassroots, and let it just be, you know, let it live in the basement a little bit. Like you don't need to come up out of the basement quite yet. Let it just be this natural thing. Let it be this thing that you love doing. And if it feels right, keep doing it, and it'll grow. You'll find the way to make it grow. And your audience will help you. That was a big lesson that I learned and like still learn. I didn't really know what I wanted to stream at first. I just knew that I wanted to stream Street Fighter. And eventually I started realizing that I was like, man, I really enjoy teaching other players. It was very, very gratifying and fulfilling for me to see other players like, holy crap, dude, you came back like a month later and you had like ranked up from like gold to super diamond. And it's like, holy shit, dude. Crazy. How you're taking games off of me because of the things that I told you to do. And it's cool seeing that, you know, like that is just me. That's what kind of fuels me. I'm not really in it for the same thing as, you know, like streamer X, Y, or Z over here. You kind of got to like find what makes it fun for you. And like, I think constantly kind of like asking yourself and checking yourself with like, why am I doing this still? You know, you got to be, I think you got to be like very clear about what you want from it, but it's okay to not know right off the ground. Just get going and see what you think. So
definitely, man. Definitely. That, I mean, you know, aside from asking when we're going to have some matches, you know, some Street Fighter 5, I just have to ask you, did you have fun?
Bro, this was great, man. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I feel like a little bit of weight has been taken off. And it's like, I had to just get a little real on stream tonight. And I appreciate that. I love that this was where I got to do it. Feels very but no, man. Hey, thank you so much for having me on, man. I had a great time. It was great. I can't believe we've been at it for this long, man. Like,
right?
Just talk about this kind of shit like all night with people. It's so fun, man. It's been a really great experience. So thank you so much for having me on, Mekel. I really appreciate it, man.
Man, it's been a true honor to have you on the show, man. Thank you.
Honor's mine. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. And again, man, tell everyone where they can find you and if you have anything in the works.
Sure, man. So my Twitter is at Aegis Neglector, all one word. It's, hard to miss. I got my poor embarrassed Shibasaki standing there embarrassed because I'm giving him the bunny ears behind his head. The same artwork you can find on my Twitch page, Aegis _Neglector. I'm pretty sure that I screwed myself out of the single name with no underscore. I think I did it to myself and screwed up the account, and now I can't. I've just given up trying to remove the underscore. So it's just underscore on Twitch, but no underscore on Twitter. And then my teeny tiny Instagram, it's very, very it's in its infancy still. But my Instagram is the exact same, Aegis Neglector, all one word. What I've actually been working on lately, aside from I gotta get my bum ass on stream more for sure. Is I actually there's a studio out here in my area that my buddy and I have been working on a web show on Sundays. So it's the Executive Geek Roundtable from Fonco Studios. So we're actually trying to get a new web show kind of kicked off with that. So stay tuned for that. You can give them a follow too. Let me see here. Executive Geek. Yeah, so theirs is Executive Geek 1, the number 1. So Executive Geek 1, all one word. And whenever we finish shows there, we post the shows up on there on the profile there and on Instagram and stuff. So that's kind of what I'm in right now. And then I'm doing a lot of descriptive audio description for the visually impaired. I do a lot of movies and Netflix shows and stuff like that. So if you happen to be a visually impaired user or not, you just want some narration with your movies and stuff, you can go request the AD at your movie theaters and stuff, or flip them on Netflix, and you'll probably hear me in something or other.
All right, we're gonna hear you voicing the character in season 4 of Street Fighter.
And let's make it happen. Shibasaki playable. Let's go. Let's go. I would gladly hop in and provide some bus ass. So yeah, man. I had to whoop up on my own. I got to whoop up on Miss Kanzuki, man. If it's got to happen, it's got to happen, bro. She got to catch these hands, dude. Don't even lie, man. I got to put it on Miss Kanzuki. Can't help it.
All right, and with that, we're gonna wrap up the show again. Thank you, Mike, for coming on the show, man. It's been a complete honor, and you guys will be able to catch this on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn Radio. Very soon, we're going to be on XM Radio as well as Sirius FM, since we just signed a contract with them.
Nice.
But with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. And for my guest, all of his links for everything is down in the description below. So please go and stalk him on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch. But don't do anything crazy. You can stalk them, but don't go crazy.
And you guys too, I always tell people, if you follow me, hit me up too. DM me and I will respond. I will happily, I will set time aside for you, and we will mic up on a one-on-one basis, and we will talk about your gameplay. We will legit work on stuff, man. So don't be bashful. If you hit me up, hit me up and we'll do the damn thing. We'll work on your gameplay, and we'll have some fun.
Definitely. I know I'm going to be getting some lessons from you, because I need to get better. But yeah, with that being said, we're going to wrap up another episode of Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. Again, I want to thank my guest, Mike, aka the Aegis Neglector, for coming on. And with that being said, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
All right. See you guys later.